Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to look at the pretty severe system that's going to be moving in on Wednesday, which has now been named Storm Agnes. We did think yesterday that we were going to see it named. It has now officially been named by the Met Office and could bring winds of up to 80 or maybe even as high as 90 miles per hour locally for southern, western and eventually northern areas as the system rolls in through Wednesday and Thursday. In today's video we'll have a look at the latest weather warnings, as we did see a yellow warning for wind issued yesterday, but it has been extended, and we have seen some rain warnings issued as well. We haven't got an amber warning issued yet, but there is scope for that to be included in tomorrow. So we'll have a look at the latest UKV, icon and arpege, looking at those wind gusts to see whether we do think an amber warning could be warranted. We'll then also have a look at the long range, just briefly touching on the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensemble sea orders in store over the next couple of weeks as this storm system moves through. There are perhaps some tentative positive signs as we head into October, with many of the runs indicating there could be a rise in pressure, but I wouldn't get our hopes up too much yet, as of course the high pressure can shift around, so we'll have to wait and see. But some tentative signs for early October. We'll look at that in the second half of the video. So remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, for 2 stars on the live radar, it's actually been a very nice day, very warm and dry. I'm recording this a bit later in the day, so the temperatures have peaked a good few hours ago now, but you can see it's widely dry at the moment. A few showers across western Scotland, and the temperatures this evening are still fairly moderate for England and Wales, especially for this late in the evening. Temperatures, as I said, peaked around the 21 or 22 degree mark today, but things are only going to be deteriorating as Storm Agnes moves in on Wednesday. Now, if you look at those weather warnings, you can see quite a large proportion, pretty much most of the United Kingdom is now covered by yellow warnings. The southeast is the only exception here. We're not expecting anything too severe, but there will of course be gusty winds. Whole of the Republic of Ireland also has a yellow warning from Met Erin, and we'll look at those warnings maybe tomorrow, as I suspect they will probably get upgraded as well. But if you do start on the widespread wind warning, that pretty much touches the whole of Scotland, the whole of Northern Ireland, most of Northern England, the Midlands, Wales and Southwest England. It's from midday on Wednesday until 7 a.m. on Thursday. Strong winds associated with the Storm Agnes are expected to move northeast Wednesday, with this chance they could be significantly disruptive. You can see it has adjusted the area to include northwest Scotland and Dartmoor, making the start time a little later. So you can see here, deep area of low pressure named Storm Agnes is expected to approach Southwest Ireland early on Wednesday. It will track across northern parts of the UK for clearing early Thursday. There is still some uncertainty on the exact track. Most models do have it covering sort of the southern parts of Ireland, bringing the strongest winds out in the Irish Sea towards Wales perhaps, and inland Republic of Ireland, before spreading into Northern Ireland and Scotland. But that can still shift in the next sort of 36 to 48 hours. Most likely outcome is for a wide area of 50 to 60 miles per hour inland. Again, that doesn't sound too severe, but we are talking about inland areas. When we've seen some really severe storms over the last few years, we haven't been talking much higher than sort of 60, 70 miles per hour in places. Perhaps locally, though, we could see slightly higher than that, and over Irish Sea coasts we could see 65 to 75 and a small chance of 80, and maybe out to sea a 90 mile per hour is shown on a couple of the runs. A few of the runs even a few days ago were showing 100 miles per hour, but that now looks unlikely. Those were on the extreme end at the time, but that now looks more unlikely. Most likely peak around that 80 to maybe 90 mile per hour point. Widely though, 65 to 75. You can see high impact, low likelihood still haven't changed the warning impact matrix yet, but I'm sure that will change tomorrow. Either jumping up 1 or jumping up 2 in some areas, and we'll see an amber warning issued. I think the most likely area at the moment could be for parts of Wales, maybe Northern Ireland, parts of southern Scotland on the approach. Those winds really going to be spiralling up these Irish Sea coasts here. Now, if we also do cover the rain warnings, you can see that we've got an area of rainfall accompanied by very strong winds is likely to arrive from the south on Wednesday evening. It's from 9 p.m. on Wednesday until 6 a.m. on Thursday. So only a 9-hour warning, but we could see 30 to 50 millimetres, as high as 60 millimetres over higher ground. And this is the important part, because traditionally you wouldn't probably see these large yellow rain warnings, especially for Scotland and over the higher ground where it is quite usual to see high rainfall. It's this important part here, given that this is forecast to follow an already very wet period, which has not had much time to dry out, as well as the fact that the strong winds could exacerbate any flooding by blocking drains and gullies. So you can see the rainfall the rain warning is a combination with the wind warning. Those impacts could sort of accumulate on top of each other, and you can see here very high likelihood but lower end of the impact matrix. Elsewhere though, we could still see heavy rain, as we'll see in the UKV now. As you can see through this afternoon, it's pretty decent. As we head into tomorrow, there could be some more rain bands pushing in from the west, but still not too bad. As we do progress into Wednesday, though, you can see Storm Agnes arriving, and on the precipitation charts, it doesn't look too severe. There will be some very heavy rain in it, but it's not looking like an absolute wall of rain, like some named storms we've had over the years. But nevertheless, still a very intense system, and it's all in these wraparound areas of rain around the centre of the low as it passes through parts of the Republic of Ireland is where we see the strongest winds. Eventually, it does clear through the early hours of Thursday, and actually Thursday looks like a pretty decent day for most areas, where you see a little bit of a squally feature moving from the west as a secondary low arrives along the jet. Some runs even have some very strong winds in this, 60, maybe 70 miles per hour again in this system. I need to keep a very close eye on this for Thursday into Friday. But at the moment, the UKV is producing primarily some very heavy rain. For Friday, not too bad of a day. Now, if you look at the mean sea level pressure, you can see Storm Agnes arriving, extremely severe area of low pressure, down to around 980 millibars, not quite as deep as some runs have been showing. It's kind of in the middle. Some were showing about 990, a couple of days, some were showing sort of 960, 970, and it's looking roughly in the middle from the UKV, around that 980 millibars. But it really is the wind gust. As it approaches, you can see we're looking widely at 70 to maybe 80 miles per hour out to sea, that drifting towards coastal areas and inland looking widely at 50 to 60. And you can see why I think there could be an amber warning issued for parts of Wales, Northern England and maybe Northern Ireland for those 60, 70 mile per hour gusts, or even as high as 80 miles per hour drifting inland, for slowly clearing through Thursday, but still pretty gusty. And you see that secondary system as it moves in on Thursday could give another spell of very strong winds in the southwest, more 40 to maybe 55 or 60 miles per hour here, but again that could be upgrade. Have to keep a very close eye on that. You see the max temperature today, 20 to 22 degrees this afternoon, really quite pleasant. Into tomorrow, could still see again another 21, 22 or 23. So again, pretty decent conditions. Into Wednesday, we avoid most of the rainfall and the strong winds in the southeast. It might be 20 or 21, and you may be thinking it's a little bit blustery out, but it's nothing too severe. Where's this big storm? And that's because it's much further north and westwards. It's going to really be a Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales, maybe the southwest of England, Northern England, Scotland sort of event, not for much of England. So, further north and westwards, it's going to be pretty miserable. Temperatures are pretty abysmal there. And Thursday, that continues. All areas slightly cooler as the cold front sweeps in. We're looking more at mid-teens. And into Friday, some briefly warmer air could drift into the southeast, but most of our areas, again, in the mid-teens. Now, if you look at the icon run, we'll primarily just have a look at the wind gusts for these other runs. You can see strongest winds here, looking at 70, 80, even showing 100 miles per hour there. But remember, this is out to sea. In coastal areas, we're really looking at maybe 70 or 80 miles per hour from this icon run. Inland, again, widely 60 to 70. Beyond that, it does move northwards and it does weaken like the UKV was showing, and it does align quite well with the UKV through Wednesday evening to Thursday. We're looking widely at 50 to 60, locally up to 70, maybe 80 through sort of Wednesday afternoon and the evening, for eventually clearing through, and then into Thursday evening. Again, could see some more gustier winds move in, but not producing anything too severe here. If you look at the R pairs run here, again, as we head into Wednesday afternoon and evening, you see 80 to maybe 85 miles per hour on approach, slightly stronger than the UKV. So it looks like for these three shorter range runs, the UKV is actually the least intense. As we do progress beyond that, you can see widely still 70 to 80 miles per hour out to sea, and for coastal areas, inland, more 60 to 70, and as weaken more down south, sort of 50, 60, maybe as high as 70 locally by Wednesday evening. So really, the most severe winds will be for parts of the Republic of Ireland, maybe Wales, and the far southwest of England. Elsewhere, it's going to be very gusty, and it's going to be widely very strong winds, but it's not going to be those 80, maybe 90 mile per hour winds that could occur just as the low arrives. We're looking more widely, as I said, at 60 to 70. Still disruptive, still yellow warning, and maybe even locally amber warning worthy, and of course worthy of being a named system. And then finally into Thursday, we do see another period of strong winds, but again, not quite as severe as the UKV was showing, and again, just generally pretty gusty. Now, if you have a look now at the long range, some of you will be interested with what could be happening as we head into October. And as I said at the start of the year, there are tentative signs that it could get slightly drier and maybe even a little bit warmer. Now, I can see Storm Agnes moving in over the next couple of days, and then generally a very strong westerly flow. But into early October, we do see some signs of high pressure trying to build in. There are some lows trying to move in here, but high pressure tries to hold on and does a relatively good job at holding on. It doesn't dominate. There will be rain, there will be probably wind, there will be some weather fronts moving in, but it's nowhere near as severe as we can see at the moment. And you see here, high pressure's built in, a bit of a southeasterly flow, and we're still at the time of year where a bit of a southeasterly flow is still going to bring above average temperatures. In around a month, 6 weeks' time, an east to southeasterly flow will start to bring in some dry, colder continental air, and probably won't be an ideal pattern. It'll probably be a bit frosty and a bit cold and a bit chilly and foggy. But we're still early enough in the autumn that it would still bring in some relatively decent conditions, and you see the temperature deviation is slightly above average. So GFS has a relatively decent first 10 days or so of October. Now the GEM, very similar over the next few days, of course. Low pressure barraging off the Atlantic, of course, with Storm Agnes on Wednesday, and then high pressure attempts to build in. And actually, as we head towards day 10, we actually see a small pesky low develop, but generally similar to the GFS, high pressure is attempting to build in and having a good go. So GM perhaps not quite as positive at day 10, not quite as high pressure dominating, but it's having a good go. So tentative signs, as I said, high pressure building in. Now finally, for the ECMWF, again we see very strong westerly winds moving in over the coming days, high pressure building in perhaps as soon as early next working week. Actually towards day 10 it does start to make some considerable gains. Still low pressure to our north, trying to bump in off the Atlantic, but generally things turning a little bit drier and perhaps a little bit more positive here from the latest ECMWF. To finish, if we look at the latest ensembles, just refresh those, you can see generally we're looking at average to maybe slightly above average over the next couple of weeks. There will be dips below average, and precipitation is looking fairly high at times, but there definitely is a bit of a decrease as we head into October. Still some patches where we do see a sudden increase, and again those will be clusters of low pressure, but there is tentative signs the outlook is improving. The 2 mean temperatures are though on a downwards trend, but that's typical of this time of year. We are similar to sort of May, June time, where temperatures are just on the rise pretty much week on week, unless we see a very cold northerly wind or something like that. We're on the opposite side now, where temperatures are pretty much going to cool down week on week now until we get towards sort of December time, where they sort of bottom out at sort of average temperatures of sort of like 6, 7, 8 degrees a day. So yeah, we're on the downwards trend now towards winter, unfortunately. So even though these upper air temperatures are slightly above average, and they don't look like they're dipping that much, you can see the temperatures here going from sort of 21, 22 down towards sort of 15, 16 degrees by the end of this run, even though the upper air temperatures haven't actually changed all too much. Sea level pressure is looking higher in the longer term, especially into early October, but there are some dips, especially around the 5th or 6th. That's when we did see some storm systems, or some precipitation spikes indicating some storm systems moving in. And finally, just to finish by looking at the ECMWF runs, again you can see generally average to above average, some considerable precipitation in places, but still relatively positive outlook, or at least an improvement from the last few days. But of course, they're tentative signs. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. It's just the current runs have got a bit more of a high pressure trend in the last sort of 24 hours or so as we head into October, which is a good thing. And the temperatures are pretty similar. Slow downward trend, 20, 21, 22 next couple of days, down towards sort of 16, 17 degrees around that sort of first 10 days of October. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed this. Do stay safe over the next few days. Storm Agnes is going to be a pretty severe system. Not going to be the strongest storm we've ever seen, but it is going to still be a relatively strong storm with lots of heavy rain around, widespread gusty winds. We're not looking at 90 or 100 miles per hour we have seen in historic storms where we've seen amber and red warnings. We are looking at a very large area of gale force winds. And of course, if you are in parts of southern Republic of Ireland, there is the risk that we can see those extremely severe winds when the system first arrives. Maybe 90 or 100 miles per hour is possible. So if you are in those regions, do keep an eye on those weather warnings at Erin or Met Office if you're in the United Kingdom, as I'm sure they will be updated when more data becomes available. And I'm sure we'll see another update tomorrow, perhaps even updating to an amber warning in some areas. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.